Welcome, everyone, to the San Rafael City Council regular meeting. Today is Monday, April 7th. I apologize that we were a few minutes tardy from our 6 p.m. start. I will ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Bushy is absent. Councilmember Hill.
Present.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Yeden-Scolati.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. 4 of us are here this evening. Prior to the meeting, we met in closed session. I'll ask the city attorney to report out if there's anything to report out.
Good evening. No reportable action was taken in closed session this evening.
Thank you. So good evening and welcome. We are so glad that you're here, whether you're here in person or watching online. I want to take a moment, as always, to recognize our incredible city staff. You are truly the backbone of San Rafael, and you work tirelessly every day to respond to community needs and to keep our city running smoothly. Thank you. As we know, San Rafael doesn't operate in a bubble. And so we continue to monitor the evolving federal landscape, including new policies like the recently announced tariffs. We want to understand how they may impact our local economy and operations. While we all recognize that the full implications are still unfolding, we're committed to keeping you informed. One of the best ways to stay connected and informed is to subscribe to the city's newsletter, The Snapshot. It's a quick and easy way to learn about city initiatives, policy updates, as well as upcoming events. You can also sign up for meeting notifications to keep track of what's happening, not just with the council, but with our many boards and commissions. For all of these, you can go to the city website and sign up. So there is a lot going on in San Rafael and in our world, and we want you to be informed, engaged, and empowered to participate in shaping the future of our city. Before we get to our business agenda, we like to include a land acknowledgement in addition to the work that we do with the tribe on an ongoing basis. Our land acknowledgement is this. We thank the original caretakers of this land. San Rafael is traditionally home to the Coast Miwok people, many of whom today are tribal citizens of the Federated Indians of Great and Rancheria. We honor their continuing involvement in stewardship practices that benefit us all. We're glad that you're here, and I'll turn to the city clerk so she can describe how people can participate in tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. For members of the public wishing to provide public comment, displayed on the podium and the projector is a timer to help you stay within your 2-minute time frame. You're invited, though not required, to introduce yourself and say what area you live in or what part of San Rafael you live in, or if you're from outside of San Rafael. We do offer closed captioning for this meeting on Zoom. You can select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable that feature. Community members may request reasonable accommodations to provide public comments virtually. For more information about that, or if you have any technical difficulties, you can email me at city.clerk@cityofsanrafael.org. Thank you.
Thank you. I will turn to the city manager for city manager report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and the members of the community. I wanted to start off by thanking the police department. This weekend, there was a peaceful protest at the Civic Center. Over 4,000 people were in attendance, and it was a uneventful event. And so just appreciate the police department's contribution to helping out the sheriff at that event. There's a couple of pieces of legislation. Actually, there's a lot of state legislation that the city tracks and advocates along with Cal Cities. So I just wanted to mention that Mayor Kate sent 2 letters opposing AB 306 and SB 79 this past week. So I just very briefly will say what those are about. AB 306 would temporarily freeze most changes to building codes for homes in California for 6 years, which would prevent cities from adopting new safety or sustainability standards that could reflect local needs or risks like wildfire and our climate goals. SB 79 proposes empowering transit agencies by allowing them to develop land that they own near transit stops without being subject to local zoning regulations. This means that they could determine aspects of the development, such as building height, density, and design for residential and commercial projects on their properties without the city's approval. Moving on, we have Immigration Know Your Rights red cards that are available both sides, Spanish and English, and we have those at all of our community centers and libraries in case you want to pick one up for yourself. They are helpful in advocating for rights when interacting with federal immigration officials. I also wanted to mention the county has a survey out. It's the Behavioral Health and Recovery Systems. They're developing a 3-year plan to guide the county's behavioral health priorities, including funding decisions with a special focus on housing, mental health, and substance use treatment. So that survey is online, open until June the 1st. It's on Marin Behavioral Health Services.org website. We have, it is Earth Month. We're celebrating in April, and we have some really fun community events starting in District 1 on Saturday, April 19th. There is a neighborhood cleanup at Pickleweed Park that starts at 9. There's a meetup by the path at Tiscali Marsh. And then downtown, there's a Clean and Green Day. That's on April 22nd from 10 to noon. And the meetup is at the Santa Rosa City Plaza at 1000 4th Street. There's a lot happening also coming up in May. So a couple more things in April. The second Friday Art Walk is this Friday night at 5 o'clock downtown. The city is also hosting a Sea Level Rise and Climate Action Forum, which is on April 24th from 5:30 to 7:30. That's at BioMarin at their conference room at 750 Lindaro Street. That's open to the public. Canal Alliance is having a big community fair on Saturday, May the 3rd from 12 to 4 at their new headquarters at 711 Grand Avenue. And then we have the May Madness events coming up. So it's not for another month, but I thought I'd forecast because it's a very exciting annual event that starts this year at Terralinda High School and goes to downtown San Rafael. That's Friday, May the 9th at 6 p.m. That's the cruise. And then the car show and parade is May 10th from noon to 6 from 4th Street, Lincoln to D, downtown San Rafael.
Thank you for your report. I'll turn to my colleagues for them to report out as well. Councilmember Kurtz, would you like to start?
Let's see. It's been a busy couple of weeks. North San Rafael, the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce has launched a new group for businesses in North San Rafael to just have an opportunity to get together. Mayor Kate and I joined with them just with a focus on what's happening in the north with the businesses as well as with the changes coming for North Gates. Participated in that. The Homeless Policy Steering Committee with the county focus on older adults and really a focus on homelessness, the propensity for many older adults who could become homeless. Fun part of the last couple of weeks, I did a reading at San Pedro, which was really nice with first graders and second graders. The priority setting committees for the county are meeting right now. We are looking at the funding. We have a number of applications, way more requests for funding than what's available to fund. But I'm on the Housing and Community Services group, and so we're working through that process right now. I had the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority Board meeting. We had the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members, the Legislative Committee meeting. This one's happening right now. There's because of where we're at in the cycle of legislation, we have a number of bills that are being introduced and with interest in around housing right now. Attended the county. We have a small subcommittee group that we're working with the county on establishing possibly I'm not sure what it's going to be actually and what comes about, but right now the county opens up an extreme weather shelter, and we're trying to see if there's an opportunity to open up a shelter when it's not as extreme. And so where it falls into, we wouldn't want to leave home, but the homeless have no place else to go. So we're looking at, is there something for inclement weather? The Marin hosted the California Wildfire and Forest Resiliency Task Force on the 26th and 27th. And so attended that, heard a lot of great information as well as what's coming from the state. So that was and there were many people there from across the state. So thank you for those from San Rafael who attended. Mayor Kate and I participated in the City Schools County meeting where we review topics that sort of relate to all the schools, the county, and the city. And so we worked through that. And then I went to, had the opportunity to go to Burbank for the Cal Cities Policy Committee meeting with the focus on community service. And this is over three different meeting times. This topic at this meeting was on homelessness. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. I have a few items to report out on. Similar to Councilmember Kurtz, I also did readings at Laurel Dell and Coleman Elementary Schools, privileged to read to third and fourth graders. I selected Jaden's Impossible Garden, in which a boy challenges his mother's belief that there is no nature in the city and successfully challenges her. And then on March 19th, I presented to the West End Neighborhood Association on the 38 points of the San Rafael Wildfire Prevention and Protection Plan, which the Fire Commission, back in my day when I served on the Fire Commission, had an active role in helping get adopted in 2020, and spoke on that in other Q&A. And as Councilmember Kurtz mentioned, on Wednesday, March 26th, where I serve as president of the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members, we received a presentation from John Carroll, the Marin County Superintendent of Schools, where he took questions from the MCCMC members. Of note, and I had to learn this that night, he challenged the MCCMC body to say, what does a superintendent of schools do at the county level? None of us got it right. The position was established as part of the state constitution in 1879, and the main responsibility that is there is for fiscal oversight. Everything else is a can or may. John takes the position to the cans and mays beyond just financial oversight. So it was a very lively conversation, and I was joined by Councilmember Micah, and that is my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Lorenz Gulati.
Thank you. I participated in the MC Clean Energy Board meeting. It was the end of their fiscal year, so approval of the budget was a big thing. I also attended the Marine Promise has a new collaborative group or like an effort to align local resources, elevate the community leadership and drive solutions. And it's called Canal Promise Neighborhood Steering Committee. So I had the pleasure to attend, and there was a lot of cross-sector partnerships. The county was there, San Rafael City Schools, Miller Creek School District, College of Marine, Community Action Marine, Canal Alliance, First Five Marine, Marine Health and Human Services. It was like a really nice room, and we are all with the same goal to really support the canal and everything that we are doing from the city and from all the other places to align so we can have, some effective change. So that was exciting. Also participated in the county-wide, Marin County has a sea level rise steering committee. So we continue meeting with different members of different cities, coastal cities here in Marin County. Participated in the MCCMC, as you mentioned. I also attended the Cal Cities second meeting that Councilmember Kurtz was describing. I'm in the Environmental Quality Committee, and it was really nice always to get an update on the governor's budget and what's coming in May, and also focusing on a lot of energy conversations and a lot of the bills that they are coming, through the state as well. So it was very interesting. Also participated in the parking permit program. We had a focus group at Canal Alliance, lots of participation. It was not enough chairs for everybody there, and it was really good to hear from the community. I don't think this is the last time that we are going to be talking about parking permits with the canal and with other neighbors, so it's something that we are working on. Really appreciate the staff for organizing the meeting. And then lastly, this morning I had a meeting with Marine Transit, the board meeting, and they updated that Marine Access ridership was strong this month, and the ridership is 10% higher than the previous years, and it seems that it's doing really well. And there were like two main activities that we did. One was approving the funding cycles for Measure AA for the yellow school bus for the next 3 years. And then they also have a new format for the Catch a Ride pilot program is transitioning to a mobility wallet. So if you want to get more information, they have marinetransit.org and lots of things happening. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I have a few report outs as well. I'm the chair of the San Rafael Sanitation District. We had our monthly board meeting. We continue to work on our strategic plan and operational consolidation with Central Marin Sanitation Agency. Those meetings are open to the public. We'd love to have you there. I also, continuing on the transit theme, for SMART, Sonoma Marin Area Rapid Transit, in our last meeting, the board, we were thrilled that the entire board approved a $540,000 contract that is for the design and permitting of the bike path on Portezuelo Hill, which is over here between San Rafael, Lincoln Ave, and Terra Linda. So we're really grateful to the SMART board. That's the next step for having a pathway constructed there, is you got to have it planned and designed. Ridership continues to increase on the SMART train. February of 2025 was 32% higher than February of 24. And in fact, in January of this year, they carried 2 million passenger miles, which is the most in all of Marin or Sonoma of any transit agency. And as of today, the Larkspur Connect, so that's literally the little bus that goes from when you go to Larkspur Landing and you want to go to the ferry. It's now 7 days a week. It was a pilot. We did it for 4 to 5 days, and so now it's all 7 days. And it's timed, so on the nights where there's a Giants home game, you can take the SMART, take the connector, and get on the ferry. So they have aligned all of that timing as of today. In addition, I serve as your representative on the Transportation Authority of Marin. San Rafael has continued to be a big beneficiary and a leader in receiving grants across the board, and shout out to Department of Public Works for seeking out these grants. The most recent HSIP, terrible acronym, it stands for Highway Safety Improvement Program. San Rafael was able to garner over $2.5 million for that. In addition, the Measure AA, which Councilmember Lorenz Gulati referred to, those were, San Rafael did very, very well. So the first two projects, these are partial funding. One is the Rafael Meadows Safe Crossing Pathway. So that was $450,000. So that will provide a new multi-use pathway along a freeway rail underpass. Please note that that project is more expensive than that, but it is part of the funding bucket. In addition, for another $450,000, the San Rafael Woodland Avenue Safe Routes Project. That is for pedestrians and bicyclists between Laurel Dell Elementary and Davidson Middle School to address a gap in that route. So again, we're very thrilled that those dollars are necessary to go to the next step. Two other projects that received Measure AA funds. One is the Nova Albion Bikeway and Pathway Gap Closure. We received $100,000 for this, and it's 2 bike lanes and a striped buffer on the west side of Nova Albion. That project cost is $109,000, so almost got the full funding on that. So I look forward to having that come sooner rather than later. And then the other project for $100,000, San Rafael Fifth Avenue and California Avenue intersection improvements. So this is between the intersection of Fifth and California, which is a key route to the Sun Valley Elementary School, which includes closing a sidewalk gap, curb extension, things like that. So if you've been following meetings, you know that these infrastructure projects cost a lot of money. And so the fact that we successfully compete again and again for them is fantastic. And we're very thankful to the TAM board for approving all of these funding all of these projects. And I'll close by saying, as always, there's ribbon cuttings in San Rafael. There's always a lot of new things coming in. And if you have a pet, hopefully you won't need to go to the new Pet Emergency Center, but it is there now at 1 Thorndale. So that's up in Terra Linda. I went to the ribbon cutting for that. This place is unbelievable. Let me just say that. And they're 24/7. So if you have a pet emergency, that is your place that you can go to get the help that you need. And Councilmember Kurtz and I also attended, also on Thorndale, but a different day, the Villa Marin 40th anniversary. Villa Marin is a retirement community. They've been here for 40 years. And we learned a fun fact, which is they now have residents whose parents were also residents of Villa Marin. So they're having a generation of folks living in Villa Marin. So thank you. Always, we feel it's important for the community to hear what the council as well as the city manager has been up to between the meetings. I would welcome any comments from the public on the reports that you just heard. If you'd like to say something, now's the time on these items. And you are invited but not required to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in.
Hi, good evening. It's great to hear that you all are closing the gap. I just rode that pathway or some of that pathway coming here from McGinnis Park and getting onto, what is that, Lincoln Avenue, and then getting back onto the pathway. So that's great to hear that that gap will get closed. Just one concern is it sounds like there's going to be some switchbacks because it's going to be so steep going downhill. I'm just curious that, you got, whenever there's accidents, there's usually turning involved, right? So just bicyclists and pedestrians, it's hard for us to get along sometimes. And then, of course, that I'm not sure what that nickname is, so that Larkspur bus to this San Rafael Transit Center. Great job on that. Close that gap. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, the Larkspur, it's from the SMART station to the ferry is what that is. Yeah. Any other comments on the reports? Not seen any. I'll close the public comment and bring it to the consent agenda. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to hold? Not seeing any. I would welcome public comment on the consent agenda. This is items 4A through 4M. Welcome. And if you can let us know your name and what part of San Rafael, and maybe what consent agenda item you're commenting on. Thank you.
D&E, I believe.
Okay, go ahead.
I would affirm the resolutions you're having on behalf of celebrating Diversity Month, National Arab American Heritage Month. That's great. Also, E, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging and housing consulting services agreement and getting money to that. I appreciate this board standing strong for DEI and also B, belonging. We need to have that happen along with Costco, perhaps Harvard, perhaps other educational institutions, the library here. We're supporting, in spite of what's going on in Washington, DEI. And we need to continue to support D&I. At the meeting yesterday, the protests, we support gay people, bisexual people, bisexual people, gay people, bisexual people, lesbians, and then the new flag, transgender, brown and black people. The whole solidarity that are affected by DEI. So I appreciate you having this on the consent calendar. I just wanted to affirm you having that on the consent calendar so we move forward for DEI. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Not seeing any. I'm going to close the public comment. Request a motion on the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadens Gulati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-0. The next item on our agenda is a special presentation. And before we will start with public comment, and before we have public comment, I'll just read a few items from the staff report so people know what the Public Service Award is. This was an award that was established in March of 2001, and it recognizes an individual in the community who's made an exceptional contribution to the city as a place to live and work. There is a cash award that goes with it. And let me see, and this year the committee had 2 council members that partook, as well as 2 planning commissioners. And then we are really grateful that Rick O'Brien, who's a member of the O'Brien family, who originally started this award, was also a representative of the award. So before I announce who it is, can I take public comment prior? Which is really fun to ask for public comment on who you don't know who it's going to be. So, but if you'd like to publicly comment, okay, good. No public comment on that, because I am thrilled and honored that, oh God, I really want to look out, but I can need my glasses, that The Public Service Award for 2025 is presented to Chung. John, if you could join me up here. Okay. And I really wanted to take my glasses off because I could see all of you coming in, but he couldn't. And I wanted to see the look on his face, which was priceless, by the way. So I'm going to read what's part of the proclamation, but I can bet in this room that many of you would have your own things to add. But I will start with this. John Chung, a longtime resident of San Rafael and retired lieutenant of the San Francisco Fire Department, you have dedicated your life to public service and you continue to serve the community with an unwavering commitment. You have been an invaluable member of the San Rafael Fire Commission. You've played a pivotal role in organizing 6 open house events to celebrate the 150th anniversary. You provided the community with opportunities to connect with our fire department. Whereas you actively volunteer with the fire department, you participate in ride-alongs and assist during major operations, continuing to strengthen the relationship between the department and the community they serve. Whereas John Chung and his wife, Dr. Cindy Chung, have dedicated over a decade to supporting music programs at Glenwood Elementary, Davidson Middle School, and San Rafael High School, providing sound equipment, technical support, organizing fundraisers to sustain these vital programs, including 10 years of managing and supplying the sound system for the Heads Up Summerfest Carnival at Davidson Middle School. And whereas, right, I'm going to keep going because this is just, whereas John Chung has made significant impact as a coach of the San Rafael High School boys golf team for 3 seasons and the girls team for 1, you're ensuring that the students, regardless of socioeconomic status, have access to a sport. You create fundraising initiatives such as the Living Room Concert Series, as well as a speaker series, raising thousands of dollars to support the team. Whereas through your leadership, mentorship, and dedication, you fostered a culture of perseverance and growth among student athletes, guiding them through challenging seasons and instilling important values of discipline, teamwork, and continuous improvement. And whereas John Chung's tireless efforts, selfless contributions, and passion for strengthening the San Rafael community exemplify the highest ideals of public service. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the San Rafael City Council expresses its deep, deep appreciation to you on behalf of the community and award you the Richard O'Brien and Mary Ferraro O'Brien Public Service Award for 2025. Let's give another round of applause. So should we put him on the spot and see if he wants to say something? Look at all your fans.
No, it's just an honor to be part of all that, and thanks for everybody's supporting. It's just I'm just able to do all the things that we love to do with everybody's support. So thank you.
And he's humble too. How about that? We'd love to take a photo. Congratulations. I have to say, we never do this other photo, but you guys have packed the council chambers. Wait, John, come back here. Wait, come back here so we can get, oh, you're going to go back up there. Okay. Thank you all for coming to celebrate John. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. So the other fun thing about that is we actually told John that there was an item of business in order to get him here. And that's actually not true. So John, feel free, and the fire commissioners feel free to leave because we actually don't have a piece of business. It was really to have him here so he wouldn't know he was being celebrated. All right. That is always such a celebration. And I should have mentioned to John, but he'll know he will also be celebrated at, be honored at the State of the City event on May 14th. We have two public hearings this evening. The first one is a major environmental and design review permit and exception to specified Hillside development standards for 287 Mountain View Avenue. And I welcome staff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Margaret Kavanaugh Lynch. I'm your planning manager, and presenting the project tonight is your associate planner, Renee Neckenegg.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Here.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's always nice to see everyone in person. We are here today to discuss 287 Mountain View Avenue. This is a project for a new single-family home with a two-car garage on an irregular hillside lot. To construct this home over 2,000 square feet, 3 exceptions to the general property development standards are being requested, including a reduced front setback, a reduced garage setback, and a reduction of 1 guest parking space. Pursuant to San Rafael Municipal Code, Section 14-12-040, exceptions can be granted to the Hillside Development Standards with recommendation of the Planning Commission to the City Council. It's recommended by staff that the City Council convene the public hearing, discuss the staff report, testimony, and ask any questions, and adopt the resolution to approve the projects with a modification that will be discussed later in the presentation. The 2 entitlements that are being requested are a major environmental and design review and an exception for projects in the Hillside overlay. This project, again, is at 287 Mountain View Avenue. It is in the Dominican Black Canyon neighborhood. You can see on the aerial image above that this is a long rectangular lot with the irregular front due to what would confirm to be a bulb out in the existing street. The majority of the street that it resides on, Mountain View Avenue, is less than 26 feet wide. The bulb out is larger than that, and you can see on the bottom left-hand side that the site is very steeply sloped. In response to that, the applicant has proposed to construct the single-family home towards the front of the lot at the existing graded portion. In order to do this, they have oriented the driveway to the bulb out of the street, which creates a reduced setback of the garage and a shortened driveway, thereby creating one less parking space by default, which is required of the Hillside neighborhood. Additionally, they've requested to set the project forward on the lot closer than it would normally be required. A 20-foot setback is required by code, and a 10-foot setback is permitted per the regulations for an exception. Here we just have a close-up of the proposed scope as opposed to the entire lot, and another close-up of the driveway, where you can see the required setback of the driveway is 20 feet from the street. In this case, they have between over 26 feet to 16 feet, approximately. So because of that smaller point, that does by default create one less guest parking space because it does not meet our parking standards. Here we have an overview of the zoning consistency table. Besides those two items, the project is otherwise consistent with what is required for development standards in this zoning district, as well as in the Hillside overlay. I'm happy to go into detail in any of these items as requested. We have just some renderings of the project showing the new single-family two-story home. And then we have the recommended conditions. So we did receive some public comment regarding parking on the street, existing parking conditions, as well as programs that were meant to be implemented earlier and have not done so. The concern is for just general safety of parking on the street, as well as emergency access. So in response to that, as well as for general standards, we've expanded the condition imparted by the Department of Public Works related to the right-of-way. So the new condition would read, a minor temporary encroachment permit is required from the Department of Public Works prior to conducting any work within or any time the public right-of-way is restricted. This includes placing debris boxes, material delivery storage, and/or contractor vehicle parking that limits emergency vehicle access within the right-of-way. The submitted information for the encroachment permit shall include the construction management details on the proposed location and duration of debris boxes, material delivery storage, and contractor vehicle parking. Encroachment permits can be applied for online at the City of San Rafael website. So it is the recommendation of staff that the council adopt the resolution to approve a major environmental and design review and exception to specified Hillside development standards for a new single-family residence on a hillside lot with a reduced front yard setback, a decreased setback from the garage, and a reduction of one required off-street guest parking space at 287 Mountain View Avenue, APN 015-073-10 with modifications presented. And that concludes my presentation. I'm going to go back to a site plan and call on the applicant if they would like to address any points of this project.
Unless, of course, the council have any questions of staff before.
Yeah, let's wait on that if you may.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, let's see if there are any questions. Any questions? Yeah, Councilmember Hill.
Yeah. First question, just for the general public, because it's rare that a residential entitlement would come before the council. Can you be explicit as to why we're being asked to review this project?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, correct. It is a unique circumstance. We are seeing a lot more applications for new single-family residence on unique hillside lots. This being one example of one. There was previously a residence here that due to unfortunate natural circumstances, no longer is standing. And in order to maximize the lot, the applicant would like to deviate from some of the development standards. Some of those development standards are Something that you may or may not be familiar with, as it would normally have gone through Planning Commission and our previous boards, is a Hillside residential design guideline standards. Those aren't used so much as we've taken objective standards out of that and applied them in the code. Some of those objective standards are very strict and make it difficult for more unique lots to maximize the building area. So due to that, we do have the exception option built into the code so that if the applicant shows that what they are requesting is reasonable, is safe, responds to other factors, that they can request the exception with recommendation by Planning Commission to approve to the council. And we did go through the Planning Commission hearing and they did recommend approval.
Thank you. My next question is, I read in the staff report that beyond entitlement, that there's a permitting phase. Can you comment a little bit more about what to expect? Not exactly, but that specifically on remediation of Hillside to mitigate landslide. Can you comment a little bit about what would go into that process during permitting?
Absolutely. So what you're seeing here today and what we generally review at the planning level is more of I wouldn't call it a conceptual design phase, but it is more of a design phase. So when projects are coming to us, it's to confirm that they can use this footprint, height, et cetera. The next step after approval and receiving the entitlement from planning would be that they would start the construction process. So usually at that stage, there may be a separate set of plans that are specific construction documents. Those documents more specifically go into how this, any accessory structures and the primary structure, any driveways, really anything on the lot will be applied to the hillside in a safe manner that meets all building codes. Prior to that happening, we do require that applicants provide a geotechnical study that says that building can happen here on this lot, recommendations for how they may have to happen, but that is confirmed in the later stages when the building division, fire department, Department of Public Works, and any relevant outside agencies would review.
Thank you. And then just to affirm, because I saw it in a public correspondence that in that neighborhood parking box program is pending, in light of where the parking constraint is that we are granting exception, is there a time horizon for when the parking box program would visit that neighborhood?
So the parking box program, I'll confirm, is implemented by the fire.
That's correct.
department,
Yeah,
which is
just we reached over to the fire department to check on the status of that, and they are actually updating their list right now. So we don't actually have a date for when this particular street will be receiving red curbs and other safety updates, but it is on the list and it's being reviewed by the fire department as we speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Urans-Gulati.
Thank you. I had the same question, so thank you for asking that. And another one that I have is just clarification. So the garage has enough space for 2 cars,
Correct.
and there is enough space also in the driveway for 2 cars.
Well, so per our, so to get a little bit more specific on what the parking standards are, for hillside lots on streets that are less than 26 feet wide, for which this one applies because the majority of the street is less than 26 feet wide. The parking standard is for 2 covered parking spaces and then 2 off-street guest parking spaces. Those parking spaces are required to be our maximum size required for parking spaces. In this case, because of the shortened driveway, the second parking space does not meet our standard parking space dimensions, but it does actually meet a compact parking space dimension. So a car could still fit on the lot, but because of the regulations, it does technically reduce the parking.
Okay. And you could still have like a car park perpendicular to the house
On the street?
on the driveway.
Along the driveway.
I mean, sorry. Yes, on the street, in the entrance of the driveway.
Due to the shape of the street, I think that's something that it is permitted. Parking is allowed. I do think that part of the concern of the parking box program does relate to the unusual size, shape of the street and the narrowness of the majority of the street. But it is not an impossible place to park. There's no parking regulations currently.
Great, thank you. And then I guess my follow-up question would be like, so let's just say that the fire department, they haven't gone to that street yet. So we approve the project tonight, let's just hypothetically. And then the fire department comes and says, oh, this is the new regulation. Will that affect this project?
The parking regulations for the project don't rely on street. They actually respond to potentially a lack of street parking due to a narrow street less than 26 feet wide. So should any projects be applied to the public right of way, it wouldn't necessarily impact the entitlement given for the exception of the parking here on the site.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I just have one follow-up question that you alluded to. So right now it's an unbuilt lot, but it was not always an unbuilt lot. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct, yes.
So there was a structure on this prior.
There
Okay.
was, yes.
Thank you. Not seeing any other additional questions. If the applicant wants to say a few words, you're more than welcome to. Is that what you suggest, Margaret? Okay.
Yes, Mayor.
We did have a lot of the information in the packet, but we'd still be appreciative of anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Number one, thank you to Renee and Marjorie. Always, it's been a pleasure working with you people. Yeah, just again to say thank you again, and then for this particular lot, again, the house is pushed forward because of what happened from the landslide and the way that it was addressed. So to prevent future landslides, was the implementation of GeoGrid, which is basically a mesh that lives behind the CMU wall there that you see on the site. So behind that CMU wall, it is not possible to develop anything on that portion. It has been completely fortified with this grid, and therefore we were told by the geotech people that designed that measure and basically for the city of San Rafael that we cannot do that. So this is where we kind of found ourselves sort of locked between a curve and a hard place. And so we designed this home to fit in this little space as much as we could, and understanding that we would be perhaps sacrificing a little parking space or trying to do the best we could with the parking space. But at the same time, we didn't want to sacrifice living space because this is a home for a family that wants to live there, age in place there, and be there. So again, this is just kind of the situation we found ourselves in, a lot that had a very unique past and currently has a very unique characteristic. But we appreciate again your time, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Are there not seeing any other questions right now from the council? If any members of the public would like to comment on this item, now is your opportunity. And you are welcome, but not required, to say your name and what neighborhood you live in San Rafael.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Matt Bennett. Together, my wife Nancy and I are the owners and residents of 286 Mountain View Avenue, directly across the street from the project. We've lived here since 2011 with our 2 kids and are very pleased that the plans are underway to develop the land after the landslide of 2017. We look forward to welcoming our new neighbors across the street. We understand that the project at 287 Mountain View is proposing adjustments to parking. With that said, we appreciate that this allows us the opportunity to share our concerns about parking on this portion of Mountain View Avenue. Today, we learned from the planning staff that the project at 287 Mountain View now has recommendation to the council to move forward with revised condition requiring an encroachment permit, which will be managed by Public Works. While we support this recommendation, we hope that the proposed Public Works encroachment permit will follow recommendations of the San Rafael Safe Parking and Parking Box Program passed in 2021. With the City of San Rafael within the City of San Rafael website, there is a tab that specifically calls out the plans for management of the Dominican Black Canyon neighborhood. Details can be found online, but essentially we hope to see that parking restricted to one side of the street with red curbs and signage informing motorists. While we welcome our new neighbors, we hope that the parking is managed appropriately and safely during the construction phase of the new build. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else want to comment on this item? Okay, not seeing anyone. I'll close the sorry, it was Daniel. Sorry, city staff. I wasn't calling out a member of the public. So coming back, the concern about red curbing, if you could just speak to that, even though we talked about parking, what was brought up?
Sure. Oh,
Yep.
Okay.
All right. I said I would cover for Director Miller tonight. So I heard I had a pretty long discussion regarding this and the opportunities on this. So as part of the construction management plans associated with encroachment permits. This is something that Public Works regularly does. If you actually go in the details of what it takes to file for an encroachment permit, they actually look at these specifics, parking and a vehicle, emergency vehicle passing availability. So one thing we want to do is actually clarify it, because if you read the conditions as it's pulled out there, it just says get an encroachment permit. Well, this goes a little deeper to make sure that the builders and contractors are aware of this. Like, no, you need to do these things and actually identify specifically material deliveries, things that block the street, because it is a narrow street, and we have this situation throughout the city, obviously. But clarifying, like, hey, we got to be thoughtful about how we manage construction impacts within this neighborhood to make sure emergency vehicle accessibility is available. And that's really what really gets at the box program. Like the striping of the streets and the pieces, make sure that there is passable roadways at any time an emergency occurs. So that's really what Public Works will be evaluating. That's standard practice for us when we evaluate encroachment permits.
Thank you, Director Hinkle, for that information. So not seeing any other questions, and if there's additional commentary, or I would welcome a motion on this item. You would make a comment and then, yep.
Yeah, well, thank you, Renee and Margaret, for managing this. I mean, this is a perfect example of why I think we generally defer to the Planning Commission. I had the benefit of watching that matter end to end, and I thought that that commission asked a lot of very good questions, and I appreciate all the input from the neighbors. To me, this is an example of trying to make sure we're striking the right balance of creating room for development, but also ensuring that folks who are there are also mitigated impact. So I appreciate staff's attention to detail and balance on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Excellent comments. Would you like to make a motion on this item?
Yes. I move that we adopt a resolution to approve a major environmental and design review, ED 24-001, and exception, EX 24-003, to specified Hillside development standards for a new single-family residence on a hillside lot with a reduced front yard setback, a decreased setback from the garage, and a reduction of one required off-street guest parking space at 287 Mountain View Avenue.
Thank you. Yeah. Move.
Period?
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, with a revised condition of approval that was read into as part of the presentation.
With a revised condition of approval that was read in by staff.
Thank you for that motion. There's been a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Yiadam-Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Margaret. The last item for our public hearings this evening is evaluation of existing camping regulations, sanctioned camping area informational update, and Chapter 19.50 of the San Rafael Municipal Code, camping on public property. I see Assistant City Manager John Stefanski and Daniel Cooperman. Sorry, Daniel, I'm calling you out back.
Mayor Kate, as staff start
Yes.
pulling the presentation, I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
make a few opening remarks and also introduce Daniel Cooperman, our new homelessness expert who comes with a ton of experience working in the nonprofit space, as well as recently with BART on their homelessness programs. We're really lucky to have Daniel, so excited for him to make his first presentation tonight. A few things to mention about the staff's recommendation on this camping ordinance this evening. Staff is recommending a revision to the existing camping ordinance to prohibit camping in all parks. Over the last 6 to 9 months since the last ordinance was adopted, there has been a robust dialogue with the community about camping regulations. This, as we know, is a very difficult policy issue, and there are many competing viewpoints. Last November, we formed a homelessness solutions working group, which met again in January and March of this year. All meetings were open to the public, and I wanted to thank those of you who volunteered to be part of that group, who came, and members of the community who also came and participated in the forum. This group, along with many other residents and business owners who have been in contact with city staff, elected officials, have engaged in some public debate about the time, place, and manner in which the city should prohibit camping in San Rafael. Because this is such a complex policy issue, the group was not able to gain complete alignment on what solutions to bring forward or where the city should prohibit camping and not prohibit camping. But on balance, what we heard is the community is still very concerned about safety, fire risk, and impacts to public spaces.
Now that we have a fully functioning sanctioned camping area, which is proving to be quite successful as the staff will share in their presentation, we have a critical tool in place that offers the services and space for individuals experiencing homelessness. However, at a county level, we still do not have adequate temporary shelter available to ensure that unhoused individuals are not displaced without other alternative places to go. Staff is recommending continuing with our compassionate incremental approach to addressing homelessness. The proposed ordinance is a preventative measure that reduces wildfire risk in our parks and ensures that no one is displaced due to the city's camping regulations. We will reevaluate the need for additional amendments to the camping ordinance as additional units of temporary and transitional shelter come online. Our goal is to responsibly regulate camping in public spaces to protect health and safety for all, while humanely balancing the needs of unhoused residents and minimizing legal risk to the city. So I will turn it over to John.
All right. Thank you, Christine. Good evening, Mayor Kate and members of the City Council. Tonight, Daniel and I will be tag teaming this 6-month evaluation of the camping ordinance that took effect in October of 2024, along with an update on the sanctioned camping area, as well as to Christine's point just now, is also a discussion around a proposed amendment to prohibit camping in city parks under the city's camping ordinance. And just as a reminder, as you recall, when adopting the camping ordinance regulations last August, the City Council directed staff to return in spring of 2025 with an evaluation and any recommended changes to our camping regulations. So that's why we're here tonight. We'll hand it over to Daniel.
So tonight, the presentation has 3 main components. First, I'll share the results of our 6-month evaluation of the ordinance, which has been in effect since October 2024. Second, I'll provide a brief update on the success of our sanctioned camping area, which has been a critical tool for the city. And then finally, we'll present a proposed amendment to prohibit camping in city parks, and while explaining the rationale for this recommendation, particularly as it relates to fire safety. So enforcement of our camping regulations currently addresses violations in 2 primary ways. The first and more common involves violations such as setbacks, size maximums, and the construction of illegal structures. In these cases, San Rafael Police Department reviews known encampment areas and issues a 48-hour notice. After the 48-hour period, debris removal is carried out. In some cases, citations may be issued by SRPD. The second type of enforcement occurs when individuals camp in prohibited areas. For these violations, a 24-hour notice to vacate is issued, followed by a 48-hour violation process if the area is not vacated. Now onto the evaluation. Looking at our data from the past 6 months, we've observed some notable trends. We've seen over a 38% increase in calls for service related to camping regulation, rising from 161 in the pre-implementation period to 223 since the ordinance went into effect. This increase likely reflects heightened community awareness of how to report potential camping violation, as we've actively encouraged the public to use our dedicated email address, the endhomelessness@cityofsanrafael.org, also while calling the city. Additionally, a portion of this increase in calls for service can be attributed to follow-up camping ordinance enforcement actions. And then conversely, campsite warning reports have decreased by nearly 18%, dropping from 84 to 69 reports. This reduction demonstrates that our sanctioned camping area and our enforcement approach are having a positive impact on compliance. Most significantly, as of April 4th, we found there currently are no individuals camping in our city parks. This presents an opportune moment to consider amendments to our regulations without risking displacement of any individual. Now, briefly, a little update on our sanctioned camping area, which is funded through the Encampment Resolution Funding Round 3 at the state level, and it's been operating at a full capacity with 50 participants since October 2024. I'm pleased to report that we recently celebrated our first participant securing and moving into permanent supportive housing, while another participant has received a housing voucher and is actively in his housing search. Additionally, 5 participants have gained employment since moving into the sanctioned camp, which speaks to the stability the program provides. Currently, 60% of site participants are receiving housing-based case management, with additional case management being contracted by the county next week. The sanctioned camp has proven to be a crucial component in our ability to manage camping on public property while providing supportive services to those experiencing homelessness. While staff are pleased with the launch and evolution of the program, we are constantly evaluating operations and identifying programmatic shifts to increase the number of positive housing outcomes. We are also in the process of developing an updated website that will showcase these data points and success stories. And then I just wanted to give a little context of the constraints of shelter availability. This slide compares the percentage of total shelter beds relative to the homeless population across various counties in the Bay Area. As shown in the chart, Marin County is the second lowest percentage of beds within the Bay Area. This comparison provides important context for discussions around any potential camping ordinance. Many other counties and jurisdictions have made significant investments lately in shelter options with notable success. Studies consistently show that to effectively reduce the number of encampments, at least 60% of the unhoused population needs access to shelter beds. You can see we are way under that in this county. And as I mentioned, the investment across the Bay Area is unlike anything we've seen before. Furthermore, providing housing, whether temporary shelter or permanent, substantially lowers taxpayer costs by reducing jail stays, emergency room visits, and reliance on other social safety net programs.
All right, so shifting gears here to the proposed amendments for the camping ordinance. So for much of this year, the city has consistently received feedback from the community around the existing camping ordinance in the context of the recent LA fires. Wildfire safety is top of mind for many of our residents, and concerns about the unhoused population camping in parks and the sensitivity towards encampment-related fires in the city are common themes of the feedback that we hear almost on a daily basis, myself, Daniel, and the rest of the community services team. Furthermore, in February, CAL FIRE released its updated fire hazard severity zone maps, which designated numerous city parks within fire hazard severity zones. And these parks include, but are not limited to, Gerstle, Sun Valley, Peacock Gap, Victor Jones, Santa Margarita, Jerry Russell Memorial, and Terra Linda Parks. These maps measure hazard, not risk. Hazard is based on the physical conditions that create a likelihood of expected fire behavior over a 30 to 50-year period without considering any mitigation measures. And they're designed to classify whether a given parcel or piece of land has a fire hazard present so that public officials can then identify and take mitigation measures that would help slow the rate of spread and reduce the potential intensity of an uncontrolled wildfire. Camping activities introduce significant ignition sources through campfires, cooking flames, and discarded smoking materials, which can easily ignite dry grasses and brush in our parks. And we know that unsanctioned, unregulated encampments typically lack the resources to safely manage or extinguish the fires. Go to the next slide. So given this, staff evaluated amending Chapter 1950, the camping ordinance, to prohibit camping within these areas to mitigate the hazards associated with camping in a higher fire hazard severity area. However, when factoring in existing camping prohibitions at Albert Park, Boyd Park, as well as the Falkirk Cultural Center, we'd be at a point where a majority of our parks would be under a camping prohibition. And so including all city parks under a camping prohibition would offer clarity for parks that would potentially fall partially within a hazard zone, as well as includes parks that fall within the wildland urban interface, but not necessarily a hazard zone. And ensures that the few potentially excluded parks in the city do not become areas for encampments. So we are not proposing this evening to prohibit camping in all of the hazard severity zones due to other mitigating factors. So this is areas that in the city that may fall within one of the colored areas on the maps, but aren't necessarily parks. And that's due to other mitigating factors, reporting and response times and land ownership. So of note, the area around City Hall is in a yellow moderate severity zone, but we are also located across the street from a fire station, and is also an area that is pretty heavily traversed throughout the day. So with peak wildfire season approaching, and as our rainy season ends, thank goodness, and in light of the devastating January 2025 fires in Southern California, staff are recommending that the city council adopt an amendment to chapter 1950 to prohibit camping in all city parks. And we believe that this amendment is timely and necessary to protect public safety. On March 27th, the city manager issued a temporary administrative order prohibiting camping in all parks. And this order preserved the then current condition where we had no individuals who were presently camping in any city parks. And that order will remain in effect until May 22nd, unless extended or modified by council action. And the timing of this amendment is significant as it allows us to implement this change when there's no individuals who would be displaced by the new regulation. So go to the next slide. In terms of community input, as I said earlier, both myself, Daniel, and other members of our team have been in constant, almost daily contact with members of the community around this issue. And to inform our recommendation, we also gathered input from the Homelessness Solutions Working Group, some of which I see are here this evening. And this group consisted of 30 community members who participated in 3 meetings over the past 6 months. And at the last meeting, and at the direction of the City Council's Housing and Homelessness Subcommittee, we held an anonymous survey to get a better understanding of where the members of the working group felt in terms of potential amendments to the camping ordinance. And what we found from that survey was that 7 members supported prohibiting camping in all parks. 4 supported prohibiting camping only in parks within fire hazard zones. 3 preferred that the city make no change to the current ordinance. And then 2 offered other suggestions, which included further camping prohibitions beyond the prohibition in city parks. And so this input generally aligns with the hundreds of inquiries and comments that we received from residents and businesses in recent weeks and months. I just want to emphasize that we're not recommending an outright ban on camping in San Rafael. I think it's important to call that out in light of, I think, just the regulatory environment that we find ourselves in this county. Our focus remains on working collaboratively with unhoused residents, local nonprofit service providers, and the County of Marin to connect people with resources and services and housing opportunities. And as Christine said at the top of the presentation in her remarks, that we will continue to monitor the effectiveness of the camping ordinance and these regulations, and we'll bring back further recommendations for changes back to the city council should the current conditions out in the city change, or there are changes in laws or other circumstances that warrant another discussion with the city council. So if we go to the next. So the recommended action this evening is that the city council introduce an ordinance amending chapter 1950 to prohibit camping in parks, waive further reading of the ordinance, and refer to it by title only. And so with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have, but thank you so much.
Thank you for that presentation. We'll start with questions from the council. Would you like to go first? Yeah, Councilmember Kurtz, questions.
I do have quite a few questions, but I had a question first on your statement around the calls for service. Do you have a breakout of how many of those calls were for safe versus any violent or aggressive behavior?
Yeah, those were just calls to police. We have safe data separate than those calls.
Okay. And do you know the nature of those calls at all?
Of the police calls?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all camping, homelessness related, not violent.
Well, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just wanted you to clarify again, and I know you've stated it both in the report and you did state it here, that this change to the ordinance does not address encampments on Anderson, encampments around City Hall, or any other areas within the city. It is just addressing parks.
That is correct.
Okay. And this might be for the fire chief. So many of these parks are already in the WUI, Wild Urban Interface. And I was wondering if we could talk about a little bit here what the current fire mitigation work has been done to the parks to address these fire hazards. And related to that, has the severity maps changed what's going to be happening in terms of mitigation?
So first answer, we've done a lot of work and we are taking a strategic look at how we're doing the work. I know that we have a fair amount of work still to do out in Bristol Park, and we're taking that on strategically as we have fund for it, and as we have being able to prioritize those projects. If you understand, we've had several hundreds of acres that we've been working on, but certainly we could take a look at that once again and prioritize that. And I'm sorry, the second question?
Well, is that work going to change based on the maps that we've received?
Potentially, if there's any kind of regulations around there. Right now, we're just approving the maps and then see if there's any. Now, one thing that to make clear is that we do have a citywide ordinance already that allows us to do a lot of this work. So while we see that as a specific hazard, we also see the rest of the city as a hazard also. So a lot of the work is being spread throughout the city also.
Thank you. So a number of the letters, and thank you to everyone who did submit letters to us, reference violent and aggressive behavior. And I was wondering, do we actually have data around that, or is that, I wasn't quite sure where that was actually coming from because I haven't been actually aware of that. And so I was wondering if you have that data tracked.
Yeah, we pulled that from the police reporting. So we do have that in detail. I don't have it right on me though, right off the top of my head.
And I'll just add that late last year, there were a number of individuals who had briefly were camping in Bristol Park, and I know that there were a couple instances that, let's just say, could have been handled better on the parts of the people who may have been camping in the parks that we were aware of at that time.
Okay. And with the expansion of the ordinance, what would be, if somebody is camping in the park, what would be the process in terms of citing and moving somebody? And where would they be moved to?
So the process of citing would be just what we're doing currently, which is, every Tuesday we have the Special Operations Unit of SRPD go out to known locations like along Anderson, and then also they check in on city parks. And really what we do is not to come in with a heavy-handed enforcement approach, but rather we seek to work with the individuals who may not be in compliance with our camping ordinance to identify ways that we can bring them into compliance. So under this circumstance, if somebody were to be camping in a park, we would be coming in on a services-focused, more proactive approach to work with the individual to get them to move off of the park.
Which is what is done today.
Which is what is done today, yeah.
And then I was wondering if you had any thoughts. Majority, if not all, the letters that we received did focus on Bristol Park. But many of our parks are in highly wooded areas and next to homes and everything else. Any thoughts on why Bristol Park?
Could you maybe restate your question on why Bristol Park?
Is the focus of all the messages, all the requests and emails that we received. None of the other parks were called out. And I was just wondering why there's a heavy attention on Bristol Park.
I could take a stab at it, although we don't have actual data. And when I go to that park and I sit under the redwood trees and that canopy and that area, that there's so much vegetation up against open space, I'm having a hard time imagining what other parks are that similarly situated. So, and it may be a combination of some of the small incidents that had happened in Bristol Park over the last 6 months.
Okay, great, thank you. That's my questions.
Okay. Councilmember Hill, any questions?
Thank you, Mayor Kate. A lot of my questions were asked by my colleague, Councilmember Kurtz, but I wanted to clarify one thing on the enforcement portion. You had mentioned that San Rafael Police Department does do regular investigation or just surveying. But I also recall that the public can make reports. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because that's another way.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the End Homelessness at cityofsanrafael.org works very well. It's a very frequented email address. And so if there's anything, it comes up. My office phone is on the website. So I spend a good chunk of my day responding to, what might be an encampment, what might be anything. So folks definitely know how to reach us.
Thank you. that the staff report and even in the report earlier talks about the current Mahone Creek camp at this point and how it's performed. On face value, someone could look at that and say, well, one placement and one voucher in almost 6 months, that doesn't feel like a lot of progress, but can you elaborate further on maybe some of the less visible? It was on the screen, but I think can you describe the nature of the camping area as far as what it provides? I'm going to ask a leading question, but it does provide degrees of stability that allow folks to accelerate their journey towards employment and other things. Can you talk about that more?
Yeah. Yes. And you know, the outcomes, we're obviously looking at how to increase those numbers of outcomes first and foremost. I mean, 6 months of any new program, it takes a little bit for everyone to get their feet, whether it's staffing, services, and then actually moving folks in, getting people to be comfortable. But in terms of the site, we've had everything from, you know, service fairs, employment fairs, you know, medical brought on site. And so it really does bring that level of stability to people's lives. And for a bunch of these folks, they have been on the streets for, you know, many, many, many years. So it's definitely a huge change and you know, the ability just to sleep through the night is a massive difference in someone's life and cannot be understated.
Thank you.
Councilmember Urens-Gulati.
Thank you, Mayor. And also I had questions that they've been already answered. So you mentioned that you had a person right now that it has like a Section 8 voucher looking for houses. So I guess my question is, how long will it take? Is there a house available? And that's part of my question. The second part is the person that was housed. That's outstanding. Do we follow up with people that they've been housed and make sure that they continue housed, so they, you know, don't go back to be basically in the streets?
Yeah, so I'll take your second question first. Yes, we do follow up. That person has ongoing case management that will follow them to their affordable housing unit. And now I forgot your first question. Sorry.
For how long would you follow up?
How long? I mean, this person's in long-term case management.
Okay.
Yeah.
So forever.
As long as they need it.
As long as they need it. Okay. My first one was around the Section 8 voucher.
Oh, yes. That's a great question, and that's why I forgot it. It depends. I mean, that's really the most honest answer. Something could pop up tomorrow. It could be 2 months. It could be 6 months.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, one more, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just clarifying, I know you have said it many times, but this is like no camping in all parks in our city.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have some additional questions as well. So the slide that really struck me was the one about shelter bed availability into a county of our size. So if I understand you correctly, out of the 8 counties, Marin County is in 6th place. Is that correct? Okay, so my question is this: are there tools that the city has to urge the county to actually have us move up that ladder to create those shelter beds? Are they the conversations, but are there legal tools? I'm curious, to compel the county to.
None that I'm aware of at this time, Mayor.
Well, I didn't know if there might be
Question.
creative. We're a city known for thinking creatively as well as working with our partners. And that to us is really what the barrier is. So I'm just trying to think if there are other tools in the toolbox to have the county, because if those numbers are increased, the data that you gave would really.
It's an excellent question and one I'd like to give further consideration to.
Okay, thank you. So we do know that there are some shelter beds coming online, for example, 3301, which is based in incorporated San Rafael. Yet, as I understand it, because the county is part of the purveyor, gets to arbitrator who goes there, that it's not just San Rafael residents. Is that true? So 3301 is coming on board. We're getting more shelter beds, which is just part of my first question. But how much control does San Rafael have over the folks that get to go into those units?
No real control, collaboration, but those places will be filled through coordinated entry, which is a countywide list.
So that's the same for Jonathan Place, also in incorporated San Rafael. Homeward Bound 2.0, also in San Rafael. Is that correct? So
Correct.
all of those San Rafael does not receive a priority, even though it's within our incorporated city limits. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a tension here between what's incorporated and unincorporated, so that's really what I'm trying to explore by my questions. In addition to the context, so that's the county, there are 10 other cities in Marin County. So my questions now are about, are we the only city in Marin that have invested in having a sanctioned camping area like Mahone? Is there any other city that has done that?
Yeah, so at present, right now, it's us, but the city of Novato had the Lee Gerner sanctioned camp, which is not necessarily the exact same thing as what we have, but on balance, I think to your question, Novato was at least a player in this space.
They did, but that was 13 and we have 50, right, at Mahone? Okay, so there's not any other city or town that's been stepping up and trying to balance the compassion. So in that same vein, and again, I only know what I read in the IJ, which is why I'm asking here publicly, are there other cities that are actually being quite prohibitive in terms of the ordinances that they're passing? We've been very clear that what staff is recommending is just the parks. As from what I read in the paper, and I'll just say, I've talked about Novato and Fairfax have passed ordinances, and I'm just, if you could speak to that, I'm hoping you know more because you talked to the staff, and again, I don't have all the details, but they have more prohibitive ordinances.
They do, but I think there's, when we look at the situation with Novato and Fairfax, I think there's also a practical reality, which is that, to my understanding, Novato really hasn't been able to engage in any kind of systematic or really organized enforcement of their regulations in a manner that, maybe many in the public may think is going on. And as in the case of Fairfax, I believe they've been under a TRO, but we know how that goes.
Yeah.
And so they haven't been able to actually move on their regulations as well.
And have you heard from other cities or towns that might be also looking at those ordinances? And I don't know if they would tell us because we found out about Novato and Fairfax after, but I'm just asking again because we're part of a small pond. So I see the city manager.
Yeah,
We have
no,
not heard.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And the last question is very specific to San Rafael and to this ordinance. So I know the staff is proposing the ordinance to modify all parks. I'm curious, our current ordinance has a setback from active roadways of 5 feet. And I've received concerns from the community because 5 feet, if you have cars whipping by at 5 feet and there's an encampment there. So my question to you would be, and I don't know, maybe it's to the chief about vehicle code. Does the vehicle code speak to that, greater than 5 feet, or maybe it's silent on having people camp or live right next to the active roadways? And then, and I know we're going to be talking about what's on it tonight, but what would, if San Rafael ever wanted to look at that, what type of information would we need to look at? What would the background that we would need? And again, not for tonight, but really as we continue to evolve and look at different solutions to keep people safe in the community.
Totally, and I hear you on that, Mayor Kate. I'm going to pass it over to our city attorney, Rob, who will speak to more of that, especially, I don't know, Rob, if you know anything on the vehicle code reference, I think you were saying, as it relates to, or.
I would defer to Chief Spiller on the vehicle code with which he's intimately familiar, but we're looking at each other now, and I don't know of a provision that would specifically apply. But maybe Dave's got something more.
Good evening, members of the council. Dave Spiller, your police chief. The vehicle code would only apply if part of an encampment was in the roadway.
Okay.
I think we would use our Muni code as we have to create setback or additional setback if the eventuality that you're making reference to were to become a reality.
Okay, so there's no additional setback. Okay.
No, and I actually, if I may, I wanted
Please.
to make sure that Councilmember Kurtz's question was answered.
Yes.
Your reference to violent or erratic behavior. Sometimes we receive calls from the community in the form of a welfare check or somebody acting strangely. Sometimes police officers respond to those calls. Sometimes the SAFE team responds to those calls. We don't have the data for you as was referenced, but I would characterize the number of those violent calls or as described as violent are very small. There have been a couple of instances where police officers had some interaction with individuals. You know, our attempt is to de-escalate, try to resolve the situation, gain voluntary compliance, and move forward. But there have been some instances that were violent, but I would say it's exceptional and a very small percentage.
Great, thank you.
And then back to Councilmember Hill's question on the enforcement approach. You know, all of our work to enforce the code, to address calls for service, is really from a compassionate and place of dignity. So our, you know, the first real approach is a people-centered approach, and try to work with an individual and kind of resolve the reported problem if there is in fact a problem or a violation of the law, and then move forward with some problem solving and case management with other staff throughout the city.
Thank you, Chief.
And I would just add, Mayor and Council, that as to the specific question about what factors would need to be considered if there was an interest in expanding the setback, it's not something that staff's analyzed. And so we would need to come back at some later date with more analysis on that, because it's not before us tonight. And it's my understanding staff hasn't done an analysis on that point.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yep. Thank you, Rob. Okay, I'm sure there might be additional questions that arise, but at this point, I'm going to open up the public comment on this item. As always, we'd like to hear your name and what part of San Rafael you reside in, although you're not required to do that.
Council members, I'm John Bischoff, member of the West End community. As a longtime volunteer for Homeward Bound to Marin and a participant on the working group with John, I'm proud of San Rafael for taking a proactive leadership role in the for the unhoused, and a lot more comprehensive and innovative ways than other towns in Marin. It's easy to see on our website, and it's not found on other websites. The system set up by Marin Housing and others, the coordinated entry system, has shown some results, and I appreciate that the sanctioned camping area has as well, especially in connecting people with case management. But as a person currently trying to find housing for an elderly person, happens to be in Corte Madera, I've found there's quite a few touch points in the overall system that could use some definite improvement. And one voucher for Mahone in 6 months is not surprising at all. Whether justified or unjustified, at our working group meetings, I heard that residents don't feel safe either passing by or being near campers. Our public parks were designed for safe, enjoyable usage for all ages, but camping detracts from that purpose and the design of the park. However, without shelters or more sanctioned camping areas as an alternative, enforcement will be an issue. So I urge you to expand the sanctioned camping concept to more places and continue to add shelter space where individuals can go with dignity and privacy. Please continue to create the tiny home project, which is another thing on the list. Some unhoused people have had really bad experiences in shared housing situations, and that can be a showstopper for them. Adding caseworkers will definitely help, as I'm finding how hard it is to get one assigned to an individual.
Thank you. And if you could just conclude your remarks.
Sure. Ultimately, all of our homeowners who've benefited from increases in property values are going to need to contribute, but that's a topic for another day.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm Mark Shotwell. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Ritter Center. I don't live here in San Rafael, but it's been my community now for 7 years to be able to serve this community. I'm very proud of the city of San Rafael for all the efforts that you've put in, that staff have put in, to be able to have a compassionate way to address homelessness and to keep our city safe for the residents and for everybody, business that is here. It is not easy to do that and to balance those things, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of interaction with the public to ensure that we balance these things. I know for sure that the city's alignment and staff's alignment with Housing First is how we're going to end homelessness. That's about getting people the housing and the treatment they need. And unfortunately, in some jurisdictions, there's a lot of political theater that we're going to do bans on camping and somehow that's going to make homelessness disappear. And there's no evidence to prove that. But what we do have evidence of here in San Rafael and in Marin is that since 2017, 850 of the most vulnerable homeless individuals and families have been housed, and 94% of them are still housed. So it's not how do we end homelessness? We know how to end homelessness. Unfortunately, resources don't flow as quickly as we would like to. I think that what has happened at this sanctioned camp is absolutely marvelous from a service provider perspective, because we can now go to this camp with street medicine, bringing therapists, bringing case managers, and serve 50 people in one place. All of those people are going to get on a path to housing, but it also starts with compassion. It starts with keeping the community safe, reducing fire risk, having security at a sanctioned camp. This city is regulating camping. That's what needs to happen. We need to regulate it and manage it for the good of the city and for the good of the individuals that need to be housed. And there aren't going to be any camps left in San Rafael soon enough. We're going to end homelessness for everybody. This year in Marin County, we will end veterans homelessness. There's only 5 vets left. So we're at the precipice of what it means to end homelessness here in Marin, and we're just going to take the next steps. So thank you. I applaud you all for your good work.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for your leadership at Ritter Center.
How you doing? Jason Saris, co-chair of the Marin County Lived Experience Advisory Board. I just want to talk about the why the urgency ordinance, why the emergency ordinance. In your staff report, you've stated that there is nobody camping in the park, no imminent threat of that happening, and you know, there's fire mitigation going on at these hazard zones in these camps. And it seems like to ban camping at this point further is a preemptive strike that just doesn't need to happen. You haven't had any problem closing a park if there's been an issue. So I would like to see, if you have to go down a path, I would like to see that as needed if it has to happen. I like the path that the city is going, you know, with the ordinance as it is right now. I know some people wanted more. Some of us wanted less of enforcement. I'm from the mind that, you know, in light of what happened with Grants Pass and the Supreme Court giving cities a green light to criminalize homelessness, I think San Rafael is doing a better job of not criminalizing homelessness than other cities, especially in Marin with Fairfax and Novato. Was the urgency because of Novato and Fairfax? Do you have to go that route just to, you know, stay in line with them? Are you afraid more people are going to come into San Rafael? Is it because of the lawsuit by the folks out at Peacock Gap? Is that the reason why you're doing this ordinance? But it seems like it's not needed right now. So I would hope you'd vote to stay the course that you're on right now and not go any further on enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
John Reynolds, I'm a member of the Canal. What Jason communicated was what I would agree to. We need to hear from Jason and other people who have been formerly homeless or continue to be homeless to give their input to what this is going on. There has not been the fire hazards that Jason talks about. Maybe other people know there have been fire hazards in parks and that kind of thing. If that's the case, we need to have people from the homeless community talk about this and see if we can discipline themselves relative to that. So, but we need to hear from formerly homeless as well as currently homeless on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah McAvoy. I was formerly homeless in San Rafael and have been housed and living in the Terra Linda area for about almost 9 years now. And like it was said, there's nobody living, no unhoused individuals living in the parks right now. And it's not a concern. And so I think creating a ban on these parks is premature, like Jason said. I think in general, when you're unhoused, you prefer to be in in community with other housed individuals, but sometimes you need space, and I think allowing people to be able to get that space by leaving the communal areas and going into the parks, whether it be temporarily or for longer periods of time, I think that's an important thing to like decrease tension within the parks. And so having that ability to do so, I think is healthy. And just speaking from someone who used to be unhoused, I mean, there's all types of triggers and traumas that you experience when you're on the streets. So being able to step away from that and put yourself in a safe space was important for me and necessary for me to be able to survive on the streets. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
So you don't have to be afraid of homeless people. They're actually really nice. So you don't have to be afraid. Once you get to know them, then you can you don't have to be afraid. And they're actually really nice. But they might be a little bit angry because they might have families and not get to see them because they're homeless. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to comment on this item?
Oh, that was great to hear right there. It's the humanity side, right? Because what are we hearing here, right? I think Rachel, you kind of got alluded to. It's like you guys, all of us hear this judgment every day, right? It's like we got to be responsive to the constituents, but just what she was saying, it's so important to have humanity, right? So parks are great places, right? There's open space, there's greenery, there's bathrooms, there's parking. I just imagine if you say you can't be in a park, and then where are people going to go? Well, people are probably going to go to where there's no problems, right? So if there's people, there's problems, right? So, I see people going along the freeway, those pathways, you're not going to get seen very much. You set up your tent or whatever you're sleeping in late at night, after the people go home. So, I just encourage you to not divide people. You divide people, you segregate people more, it's only going to get harder to deal with. Homelessness, I think we all can kind of see that, this is only going to get worse, right? I mean, people living paycheck to paycheck and all this inflation, it's going to get crazy. The Marin Housing Authority, they said publicly that, I don't know, Section 8 housing expert, but I guess there's two types of vouchers. There's one for the apartment unit itself, and there's one that goes with the person. And one of those, I think it's the one that travels with the person. They're not giving out any more of those unless you experience domestic violence. So it sounds like it's hard to get in that realm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jane Heaven. I live steps away from the Gerstle Park trailhead on Clark Street. And I'm really glad to know that the fire department is continuing to make the area safe, because when I hike up there, I can see how much fire danger there is. And I'm so proud of San Rafael and all the work that you've done. Thank you. And I'd like to encourage San Rafael to sanction empathy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Bob Middlestead. I live right next to the Gerstle Park open space. I don't buy the idea that you can't have compassion for everybody. I think the staff's report strikes exactly the right balance. There is compassion because they're working diligently towards the day when no one needs to sleep out of doors, whether it's at City Hall, Gerstle Park, or elsewhere. I've never considered it particularly humane or compassionate to relegate people to sleeping outdoors. What I think is compassionate is what the staff is doing, and that's working hard with the county on a regional basis to have an overall compassionate resolution of this. Part of compassion is to protect our neighborhoods from the undeniable fire danger. It's not going to do us much good, and we're not going to pat ourselves on the back about how well we did on homelessness and unhoused if our neighborhoods burn down and we've got even more people looking for homes. Fire mitigation is laudable, but anybody who walks up in the Gerstle Park area, you know that mitigation is not going to protect us from what we've seen happen elsewhere. Camping has always been banned in the Gerstle Park open space. It's contiguous to Gerstle Park itself. It looks the same. It has the same vegetation, and it too should be, camping should be banned there. Overall, though, we can and we must do better for the unhoused without increasing the risks of burning down our neighborhoods. And why Gerstle Park? I think it's because of our really uniquely wooded area, all the communities around there. The police are doing a great job. The one thing I would add is to have the ordinance gives them additional leverage, the police additional ways to gain compliance, voluntary compliance.
You could
to
wrap
move
up your
people on.
comments. Yep.
So I ask you to adopt the approach recommended by the
Thank you.
Staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Gabrielle Wayne, and I live in the Bret Hart area. I've got 2 kids, and I obviously drive up Anderson and see people camping. I just wanted to stand up and voice support for some of the others who've, urged the city to remain focused on solutions. I think, helping people find long-term sustainable housing, a lot of the city's actions, like the sanctioned camping area, they're, demonstrably doing that. I don't think that banning camping, helps with that and resolves any of the issues that lead people to experience homelessness. So I strongly support the city to stay focused on helping people who are experiencing homelessness and are unhoused to find a home rather than add more bans. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ooh, this sucks. Sorry. My name's Lauren, and I live in Gerstle Park. I've spoken with you all before. And the last time I spoke, there was some characterization of the people who spoke up against some of the changes that were being made as unrealistic or sensationalized. That really upset me. I still think about it. So I just want to note that it's not irrational when I check my child's play structure at Albert Park for human feces, because I have found it there before. It is not irrational when I give a little bit of extra space around the sanctioned camping zone, because when I walk past to get my groceries, somebody threw a glass bottle over the top of it. it is not irrational when I think, do I really want to go to Gerstle Park? Is there anybody sleeping there? Because the last time that happened, there were antisocial instances. There was someone screaming at the top of their lungs 10 feet away from my kid playing on the Blue Dragon. And it wasn't irrational when I think, do I really want to walk downtown from Parkside Preschool to get ice cream? Because the last time that happened, I had my son in a stroller and we passed by somebody smoking meth. I had to look up, what is this pipe? Somebody smoking meth. And a shirtless person was stood, a separate person, screamed at me as I went past. Why Gerstle Park? It's because we live close to a lot of these incidents. Like there's a strong feeling in the neighborhood regarding safety. And I really want to support the ban on camping in all public parks to keep them safe. I also want the city to consider maybe expanding the setback around schools and childcare centers, make it a little wider. I know these changes are not going to magically stop any of these safety incidences, but I'm hoping that if they're a little further back, if there's a little bit more of a buffer zone, some of these things might be a little less likely to happen. I also want to acknowledge that when you ask someone to move, they need somewhere to go. So please do continue working with the county to find extra beds. I really support that. I just hope that it is balanced with the safety concerns of the community too. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mayor, council members, staff, thank you for all your good work on this. I'm Molly Blavel. I live in Bret Harte. I was on the homelessness committee. There is no simple answer, of course, as we're talking about. I think that there was not a clear consensus from that committee at all. We started as 30 people, and the meetings sort of grew in contentiousness. And at the last meeting, there were maybe 15 people. So 7 voted against camping in all parks, but that's not a consensus. What was great about those meetings was we actually had a chance to talk in the small groups where we could really talk and listen to each other. And there were some previously homeless people there. That was really important and insightful. So we were hoping actually to have some formerly homeless people at this meeting tonight. So thank you. Thank you, that's really great, really important. I don't know what the solution is, but I am all with you, Mayor Kate, that we need to somehow put pressure on all the other towns in Marin County and the council, because why should we, San Rafael, be doing all the heavy lifting and not having priority in this housing that's becoming available, which I'm so proud of. Thank you for that. It's just really important stuff. And there might need to be some more parity there, or some pulling of privilege, or I don't know, some legal means, Rob, you come up with to continue pressure. When I bring this up with family and friends who don't live in San Rafael, they all say, well, you all have the services, therefore we get all the homeless. Like, no, that's not how it should work. But I am very grateful for San Rafael's compassionate response, and we just need to keep working on that. But the numbers don't quite work out. So my concern is if all the parks have no camping bans, what about like in our neighborhood in Bret Harte? Our park is small, but behind us, that park is a huge hillside that's wild, where people are camping on there right now. And that's the problem.
Thank you. If you could wrap up.
Yes. Anyway, let's all try to continue the conversations and maybe somehow outreach and continue with communication of what is happening. But 50 people who are being well supported in Mahone Creek, we need to somehow increase that number.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for participating in the Homeless Solution Working Group. Thank you. Anyone else before we close public comment?
Mayor Kate, council members, Rob. My name is Daniel Bacon. I live in Gerstle Park, and I want to urge you to pass this legislation to ban camping in parks to protect us from possible wildfires and other dangers. In addition, I would eventually like to see it go even farther and ban sort of the ad hoc camping on all public property. I think the Mahone Creek development, if you can call it that, encampment is wonderful. It's regulated, it's well-run. But for instance, what's going on along Anderson Drive is a disgrace. I drive down there frequently, and often there's just trash everywhere. Somebody's cleaning it up. I have a feeling it's not the homeless, and probably at city expense. I don't think that this is good for our city. I think it's bad for our reputation. I think it hurts our businesses. You see the struggle that we have on 4th Street for businesses to exist. And part of that is based on our long, and I've been in this town for 25 years, reputation of, attracting homeless people. And, a report I got from the city, or I think it was the city or the county, said that up to 38% of homeless people come from elsewhere. And we know that 50% of all homeless people live in California, and they're not from California. So we have to set parameters of what we can do in a humane way to help the people who need help. And then beyond that, we have to say that's what we can do, and that's it. So that's what I have to say, and thank you for allowing me to come speak to you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Not seeing any. I will close the public comment. We heard a lot of great input. The one question that was in the very beginning was why this emergency or urgency ordinance. So if you could speak to that, because I don't think that's what's being presented. And let me see. And also if you could just do a brief, what our current ordinance, so this is a revised, but on the time, place, and manner, because I think we might as well take the moment to talk about what the current ordinance has been doing. You did talk about it a little bit on the slide, but just to use this moment to educate. And then the last part is around businesses on 4th Street, and I'm going to push back on that because I go to ribbon cuttings all the time on 4th Street. So I do hope that our community continues to go down 4th Street and to go to our new art centers and the Burn House Irish pub and all sorts of things, because that is a narrative that I hear and I don't know how accurate it is. So I had to push back on that one. Very defensive of our economic engine. That's our downtown. So with that, I'll turn to staff for those.
I'll start off with answering the first question and then hand it over to John and Daniel to speak to the existing ordinance or the existing ordinance on the books. So I wouldn't call it urgency. I mentioned in my opening remarks, it's more of a preventive measure, and that as staff has been looking at solutions, one of the things that we try to keep in mind first and foremost is how to not displace anyone from camping in a particular space. So the administrative order temporarily banning camping in the parks was to ensure that the council and the community had an opportunity to weigh in on this as a long-term regulation. And we wanted to make sure that that didn't create a problem where we would end up having to displace somebody, which is, not part of the city's approach.
Can I just add to that, in our world, urgency ordinance under the government code carries specific meaning. And as the mayor suggested, that's not what's being proposed tonight. And to be clear, the administrative order would remain in effect if the council were to take the action proposed by staff tonight until the date that the ordinance becomes effective, which would be 30 days after adoption, which would occur. The adoption would be at the next meeting, and then 30 days after that, the ordinance would be effective. Until then, the administrative order would be in effect.
I should just also mention that the timing with fire season upon us is the pairing of why now.
So, and then Mayor Kate, your question around, or just an opportunity to talk about what the camping ordinance currently regulates. So, looking on our city's website, which everyone can look at, we have a dedicated webpage just to details around the camping ordinance and what the city does with regards to enforcing it. And under our current regulations, the camping ordinance sets campsite size maximums. So for one individual, they can have a campsite up to 200 square feet. And for up to 4 people camping together, they can have a maximum campsite size of 400 square feet. In terms of the proximity and safety buffers, or the setbacks that we call them, campsites have to maintain a 10-foot buffer around other campsites, as well as 10 feet setbacks to any other public utility infrastructure or private property lines. In addition, to Mayor Kate, your question earlier, is that we also require that individuals maintain 5 feet from roadway pavement, and that proximity to schools, no camp can be located within 250 feet of a school property. And for playgrounds, currently, that is 150 feet, I believe. And in addition, late last year, the council also added provisions to this ordinance to expressly prohibit unpermitted structures and building materials from being stored on campsites, as well as updating the noticing and enforcement provisions, whereby typically for campsite size maximums and setback violations, it's a 48-hour notice, but if an individual is camping in an area that is prohibited to camping, such as Boyd Park, Albert Park, the Falkirk Cultural Center, the Menzies Lot, as well as a portion of Lindaro Drive and the southern section of the Mahone Creek Path, those individuals would have to move within 24 hours following their contact with the SOU unit at the police department. And I believe I've captured everything as it relates to what we currently regulate.
Thank you. And the website, why don't you just say that into the microphone for people that are watching?
It is cityofsanrafael.org/ordinance-regulating camping forward slash.
Or they can
We're
just go to
working
the
on
search bar and
URLs,
put in the word homelessness and that will come up? Okay.
Yes, and there's a button on the homepage as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I'll turn to my colleagues if they have any additional questions, or we'll go to comments, and I'll start with Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, John, for presenting, and all staff for supporting how we got here. My comments are going to focus on the arc of where have we been, where are we, and where are we going. I don't think anyone here would want homelessness to happen. The incidence of homelessness is a result of many policies that have been in place in our society for many, many decades. This is how we arrived here in the first place. That we have faced homelessness in here for decades. I'll square it as there's before Martin v. Boise, there's during Martin v. Boise, and there's post Martin v. Boise. And the city of San Rafael, like other municipalities inside of the Ninth Circuit, have been subject to, I would say, whipsaw of having to live inside of those three eras. Irrespective of that, the tragedy of homelessness has continued to persist. And the impacts for both individuals who are unhoused and to the community have been dire. I am proud that we've arrived at a moment to achieve a degree of balance. And what I mean by that is that if we could, we would house every person who's unhoused today, if we could. There are simply not enough resources at our availability at both the county level, the local level, and even at the state. That said, I do think that taking a legislative action tonight will restore balance in terms of where we have authority to be able to define time, place, and manner as, in my opinion, Martin v. Boise should have in the first place. That did not exist for the city of San Rafael for various reasons. So I agree with the adage that we cannot criminalize or legislate our way out of homelessness, but I do think that this restores the degree of regulatory framework that we should have had in the first place. I continue to urge our residents, as well as county nonprofits, to continue to support one another and how we can continue to gain the right resources in the right way to make certain that we have dignity for all of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Yuran Gulati.
I echo all that. Very well said. I think we always talk about the challenge that we have here. And when I think about balance, we're still not there. We are doing a lot of progress, and I really appreciate all the efforts from the staff. I appreciate the staff that I see. I pass through Anderson Drive several times every day, and I see our staff cleaning there all the time, and the next day is all the same. It's frustrating. I hear the community, young kids, they just want to go to the park. They just want to go, take the kids everywhere. It is not right for kids to see people living in the streets. It's not right for people to be living in the streets. It's a tragedy. You said it, I think the right word. I'm concerned when I go through Anderson Drive and, the toilet the door is facing into the biking lane, and I really worried. I have also been in meetings with other cities and counties where I hear that San Rafael is the gorilla of homelessness. We have the services, we have the housing, we have everything here. So it's our problem. And it's very frustrating. I'm very happy, Mayor Kay, you were talking about, the role of the county. I encourage everybody to speak up as well, because I do believe, specifically in my district, District 1 in the Canal, Jonathan's Place, Kerner Street, we are really, are trying to build houses. We are really trying to provide services. But I feel that we are taking a lot of the load from the county here in San Rafael. And I don't think, of course it's not fair, but I think other people could do more. I think everybody can do more. So, and I think it's possible. So I think this regulation right now for parks is a good step to keep the families in a place where even if we don't have anybody there, even if it's a safe environment, is the perception of safety. So I think it's important to have spaces like that. Wildfire is definitely something that is up there affecting all of us. So I definitely, support this resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councilmember Kurtz. And Councilmember Kurtz and I are the subcommittee for the city of San Rafael, in addition to the other work that you do at the county level.
Yes. This is definitely hard. I mean, we've been talking about, I've been part of this for over 15 years, and unfortunately it just moves at a crawl, and we are still crawling. This is a rhetorical question. How much time and money have we spent between staff and legal fees? Not the whole time, but really talking about right now with this recommendation, and versus what I know everyone has said, whether you support this, don't support it, everyone supports that we need to have a better answer, and we know what that answer is the housing. I do want to thank the Homeless Solutions Working Group. It started with 30 people, and I was there the first night. We were both there the first night, and it felt really good. I watched the video of the last night. Something happened, and it really changed. And I was sad and disappointed to see how it devolved. And I don't know. It's just, and unfortunately, I mean, I wish expanding our ordinance to the parks is going to give our community what they want, and it's not. It's not, and until we have that housing in place, it's not going to give what the safety and concerns, to address all that. Because I don't see expanding our encampments as the solution to solving homelessness, which for that's Homeless Solutions Working Group. I was hoping that there would be, I don't consider an expansion of an encampment a solution for homelessness. Moving on. I serve on a really unique role that I serve as the president of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and I'm on homelessness. So today everything came together. Regarding the fire severity maps, I've been looking at these and talking about these for weeks now, and they're designed for wildfire mitigation, not for policy decisions on homelessness. And these maps, if everyone in Gressel Park sorry, I'm going to do a little public service announcement here. If you take the information about creating a zone 0, that's what those maps are telling you on your personal property in your home. Create the zone 0. Creating a new encampment to the parks, maybe. I mean, yes, there has to be fire mitigation work there too, but it has to be our own personal work around creating this zone 0. The maps they provide, another piece of the fire preparedness puzzle. They shouldn't be used to develop the policies, do not effectively address either fire risk or homelessness. Framing homelessness as a fire hazard rather than a humanitarian issue only reinforces negative stereotypes and leads to further marginalization rather than solutions like supportive housing and increased mental services. That's where we need to put our energy and our money and our time. I'm proud of the work we are doing to address and respond to our homeless community, and I appreciate that our previous actions have been data-driven, intentionally and deeply driven by care, concern, and as you said, empathy. For me, this ordinance does not check those boxes. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal to pass an ordinance that is unlikely to be problematic. Clearly, we don't have camping in the parks right now. It isn't happening today, but these days, I want to work on real solutions and not support something that further divides our community. So I won't be supporting this ordinance.
Thank you for your comments as well. And I'll just add a few of my own. So just the context of this discussion we're having tonight. We live in the state of California, which has 1/3 of the nation's homeless. So for a city of our size, 65,000 plus, I don't think there's a city, a municipality in California of our size that doesn't grapple with these issues. Sometimes I think we think we're unique, or Marin thinks we're unique, but really what we're talking about here is being talked about throughout the United States, but especially throughout the state of California. And San Rafael is pushing the envelope on creative solutions and try to have that, walk that balance. I heard that word from staff, I heard it from the dais tonight, and we've been recognized. The Mahone Path, that's funded by an Encampment Resolution Fund, ERF, from the state. We co-applied with the county, that was $6 million. So what we're doing here and the solutions and that balance, we are being recognized at the state level for the fact that this is an approach to go forward for a municipality that doesn't have health and human services. We're not the county, which is the next part of the context. So the county, yes, in my opening comments, I really fixated on the shelter beds because we're in a real bind here. We don't create shelter beds. That's not the role of the city. That's not how we're funded. That's literally not our charter. But we actually have the effects and the impacts of encampments because there aren't enough shelter beds. So our relationship and our collaboration with the county is critical. And I can tell you that Councilmember Kurtz and I, we meet with the county and with staff on a regular basis at the county level. We're going to continue to have that collaborative relationship, and we're going to continue to push them because we need them to do more. And one of the speakers talked about programs and solutions to resolve homelessness. We 100% agree. Again, we do not have a health and human services department here. That is not our forte. We're not funded that way. So it's critical for those solutions that are really going to transition people from the street into housing has to come from the county. So, and I agree with Councilmember Urens-Gulati, having all of us have that conversation with the county helps, because this really is a comprehensive plan, a collaboration plan. And I am grateful for the work that they've done with us so far. And I'll be frank, I want them to do more. I want them to do more around resolving encampments. I want them to do more around having a tiny home village. This council, this staff, we've been very, very vocal about this for years. And that we say it with a big smile, and we're going to keep pushing for it because it's what's right for the folks that are on the street, and it's actually what's right for our community as well. So tonight, coming tonight, this was our 6-month check-in. It was 6 months after we passed our last ordinance. And as part of that, the council asked at that time of the last ordinance back in August, okay, we're pushing that ordinance forward. Mahone's going to go in place. We want to hear from the community, and we set up the Working Solutions Group. Councilmember Kurtz already spoke to the crunchiness, I guess, of that experience. But to me, the other takeaway is this is so complex and nuanced that even when you had the folks in the room who self-selected to be a part of it, it wasn't, you're never going to have a unanimous decision or unanimous approach. So it's really incumbent upon us here as well as staff to keep talking to the community and keep talking to the residents and keep talking to the county to say, what are the solutions that are feasible that we can keep putting forward? What are the legal tools? Tonight, we're being asked to look specifically at an ordinance. And to be clear, this is part of the tools that we have, legal tools. We've already talked about, we have Mahone Path. That's another type of tool. We've talked about working with the county. So this doesn't replace any other tool. To me, I really see it as strengthening one that's already in the box. And it's unfortunate that we have to use the courts as well to have the strength when we don't have enough of the funding to put the programs into place or to have the housing. And that's the reality of it. We need to have these legal tools. I believe that staff, and I just want to thank you for continuing to balance compassion and regulation. And I think one of our speakers spoke to that. We need to have both of them. This is very thoughtful. And for all the folks that are engaged in this issue, I receive an email nearly every day on this issue. What I want to say to folks who continue to email me, I am so glad that you're engaged in this issue. When you email me, I am going to send you a link to that homepage that John spoke about, because I also want you to learn about the complexity. There's not one tool, there's not one solution, there's not one ordinance. It is a whole configuration that we are bringing forward. And the more that our community can understand that and be educated, the more that we can keep doing more here in San Rafael. So thank you for bringing this forward. It was important to me when we had that conversation in August that we did continue to say what else. And I feel that this what else is appropriate given where we are today, given with the beginning success of Mahone Creek and the Mahone Path. And I do look forward, and Councilmember Kurtz and I will continue. We are committed to working with the county on these additional solutions. And I will be in support of the ordinance that is here for us this evening. So with that, I would entertain a motion on this item, and it's very specific, the wording.
Sure. I'll make, oh, go ahead.
Okay. I move that we introduce the ordinance, waive further reading of the ordinance, and refer to it by title only.
And a second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
No.
Councilmember Yeden's Galati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion passes 3-1. Madam City Clerk, if you could read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Rafael amending Chapter 19.50 to the San Rafael Municipal Code entitled Camping on Public Property to prohibit camping in parks.
Thank you very much. Thank you all who came and participated on this evening. We have one more item on our agenda before we adjourn for the evening, and that is open time for public expression. Now that we've concluded the business portion of our meeting, we accept comments from the public on any topics not on tonight's agenda. If you have something you'd like to comment on, please come down. Not seeing anybody. Oh, sorry, I was too quick. Go ahead.
I have a part-time job for NPR for KQED, and I heard a report from NPR, nationwide, about how empathy is being talked about in the right-wing churches, that it's not a good idea. So I think we should make public statements about empathy and get good advertising for our ideas. I'm going to be meeting with you about this. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Not seeing any. This meeting is adjourned. Good night.